move this. Well, this is extraordinary. You've managed to track me down to right here in Texas. Do come in. We're in the Armstrong Browning Library. Look at these doors. This is grow old along with me. The best is yet to be. That's wonderful. So this whole place is a kind of shrine to Robert and Elizabeth Browning. That's the last thing I expected to find on a visit to Texas. And of course, the story of those two great English poets is also one of the great romances of the 19th century. Anyway, come along with me, and I'll show you what's what. We'll come into the library. I think in my treasure room, and it really is full of treasures. It's actually full of all the, some of the furniture they had, desks they wrote at, chests of drawers. That was a table from the room they had in Italy. So, now, come and have a look at this. Here's wonderful kind of 19th century habit of sort of, giving people locks of hair and keeping locks of hair. And look at this. See this? Come and have a look at this. Lock of hair, a replica of the locket worn by Elizabeth Barrett Browning containing a wisp of Robert Browning's hair. But this is not a replica. These two are the locks of hair. A lock of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's hair was given by Browning. So, and then there's Browning's hair. Now, you probably know the story. So, Elizabeth Barrett Browning is a woman of extraordinary poetic genius, but talk about helicopter parents or overparenting. There was this tragedy occurred in the family. She was with her brother and they were on holiday, and her brother drowned by accident, and she felt, and her parents felt, that somehow, it was all her fault, and there was this trauma, this terrible grief. She wrote the great poem, Grief, out of that. And they kind of more or less almost confined her to her room. She was like an invalid. And then she's Elizabeth Barrett at that point. And Robert Browning comes and begins to meet with her and talk to her. And they have this great laugh, but it's all terribly constrained. And then eventually he basically rescues her and they elope and they go to Italy. And all the time there's been going, she's been writing these passionate love poems to him, which she can't really quite, bring us. So eventually when they're married, she kind of sneaks up behind him and puts this bundle of papers in his coat pocket while he's looking out the window, and then sort of rushes away. And he opens them up. And here, by the way, I'm a little bit of Cambridge here in Texas. This is the Cambridge editions of the English poets. This is the one of Elizabeth's poems, and this is the one of Robert's, 1895, 1900, this one. So, and of course, among the poems that she put in his pocket, eventually were published famously under the title The Sonnets from the Portuguese. I mean, they weren't from the Portuguese at all. They had just had sort of blind, These were passionate and intimate sonnets between two lovers, between a wife and a husband. And they didn't want to sort of, have too many other inquiries. So they put this little blind up. So let's hear it. You know this poem, but I mean, it sounds such fun to sound it out in this place, right in touch with the locks of their hair and pressed roses. So a pressed yellow rose they said to each other. So here we go. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach, when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. I love thee, and if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. Oh, that's so astonishing. I mean, it's beautiful, the sense of the vastness of the length, breadth, height, depth. And that particularly telling, I think this is so beautiful, when he says, I love thee, when she says, I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs. You know, that's what you offer someone when you love them. You offer all your hurts as well as all your heights, you know, your depths as well as your heights. Anyway, it's just one of the great poems of all in the English language. There the poem is, and there are the tokens of love. This wonderful flowers. There was a great thing of pressed flowers, wasn't there? There's a pressed rose there. Yellow rose, in fact, which seems appropriate for Texas. Anyway, come along here. And there's another. I look all the particular things that relate to a poet. And so, obviously, Robert Browning is famous for many poems. I mean, I suppose it's February, admittedly, but I always love his home thoughts from abroad, you know, beginning, oh, to be in England now that April's here. But I feel like I'm touching a little bit of England here anyway. But anyway, come and have a look at this. The other famous poem, of course, is The Pied Piper of Hamlin. And a poem for children, and yet it's got plenty of lessons for adults. So he wrote this poem for a little boy called Willie Macready, and who was 10 years old, and who Browning wrote it. But look at this. I didn't realize the little boy himself was obviously really caught up in the whole thing and quite good at drawing. If you come and look at this, these are his illustrations. There's the Pied Piper and the River Weser. You know, there's the mountain with the cave. And wonderful. And again, here are some other things to do. I mean, the Pied Piper there's a wonderful model of the Pied Piper and the rats, and there's another one of him playing there. And there's a very beautiful, this iridescent coloured thing, of course, of the darker second part of the poem when the Pied Piper pipes the children away. It's highlighted, it says here, by the luminous colours of South American butterfly wings. It's quite extraordinary. So I thought we ought to have a little bit of it. And I love this poem for its sheer outrageous rhyming, the kind of rambunctiousness of it, what Dylan calls skipping reels of rhyme. And I particularly like that there's one surviving rat, and the surviving rat sort of tells stories in his old age about what it was that the piper's music summoned up in him. Which I think is so wonderful. So let's take it from section 7, where the piper is piping the rats out of town. So, into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Then, like a musical adept, to blow the pipe his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard, as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses the rats came tumbling, great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, grey rats, tawny rats, grave old plodders, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives. From the street to guard he piped advancing, then step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the River Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one, who, stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to Ratland home his commentary, which was, this is the rat's perspective on what the music was summoning up for them, which was, at first, the shrill notes of the pipe. At the first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples, wondrous ripe, into a cider press's gripe, and a moving away of pickled tub boards, and a leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and a drawing of the corks on train oil flasks, and a breaking of the hoops on butter casks. And it seemed as if a voice, sweeter far than by harp or by psaltery is breathed, called out, "O rats, rejoice! The world has grown to one vast dry saltery, so munch on, crunch on, take your nuncheon, breakfast, supper, dinner, luncheon, and just as a bulky sugar puncheon already staved like a great sun shone glorious scarce an inch before me, just as methought it said, come bore me, I found the Weser rolling o'er me. I mean, the kind of glorious, I always feel like he's kind of anticipating rap or hip hop here, you know. It'd be lovely, like that is a challenge. Somebody should do like the hip hop Pied Piper of Hamlin. It would work so well. But I like that kind of glorying in the sheer, playfully in the sheer possibilities of language. I mean, he could write solemn and serious poetry. He could write these wonderful dramatic monologues, you know, My Last Duchess. But he could do something magnificent like this for children. But it all came to me as a complete surprise, you know, that I should be here. Take a look around. Just look at the ceiling. Look at the chandeliers. Look at the stained glass windows are just full of poetry, lines of poetry. So it's a kind of poetry chapel here. It's rather different from my usual library, my little study, and that's probably where I'll be when you come in next. But I'm glad you went so far as to find me here at this Armstrong Browning Library at Baylor University. Well done for tracking me down. Thanks for coming.